a two-sided view of my situation. One side is that I see myself very close to death, and the other meaning is that I am hopeful to thrive again, to bloom again. And it all combined with a twisted curtain behind the flower. I try to combine all these meanings and all these feelings in this picture.
Today we have a very special guest for you, and it took us a little bit to set up, but I'm excited that we did. We have Shahrzad. So welcome to the show, Shahrzad.
Thank you, Patrick, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I've been looking at your work, and I'm very excited to kind of jump into your world. So just to begin, kind of talk about who you are, where you came from, and how you got into art, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Shahrzad Darafsheh. I'm an Iranian photographer based in Tehran. In my practice, I'm mostly focused on how humans interact with our both natural environment and society. I also have an obsession with long-term observation in order to find hidden connections between the photographs I make and my personal experiences. In this way, it's somehow like a self-discovery and a way to express myself. Yeah. And
that's awesome. Long-term observation. Long-term observation. Why do you say that? Talk to me about that.
When I usually start my projects and start my work intuitively, and I needed to observe and look for a long time to see how the things that I'm drawn to visually have a connection with my inner self, the parts that I'm not aware of, the parts that I don't have access to. So for me, photography is a tool to access the hidden layers of my personality. So it requires to observe for a long time, patiently, to find things that I didn't know about.
A long-term observation is something that I've noticed a lot, especially within photographers. And so it's just something that's fascinating to me. It's I was in a previous conversation with someone that were talking about extended attention, extended focus towards something, and how his perception of time was changed, the way he thought about time, but also the things that are revealed when you do that. It's fascinating, and it shows up in your work. What made you start doing that?
I don't know. In some point, I think when I after I did Half Light, it started from that project.
Gotcha.
And I was doing that before, but I wasn't aware of what I'm doing. And when I was working in Half Light, that I will talk about it later, it is my most personal work, and it helps me to uncover lots of things emotionally, physically, and also in my practice with photography. So I guess it was after that I find out that that's my obsession. And the thing that I tell everyone that I talk about my work and talk about photography is that I don't look at photography as a profession or as a job. I look at it, for me, it's a way of life. Uh, it's not. I cannot live without it. It's like the oxygen. It's like the water. It's a thing that uh, helps me to move on, to keep going. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful, and when we get a chance to look at the work a little bit later, we'll see exactly what you're talking about. But I'm actually kind of curious about you before you considered yourself a photographer. What were you like? Well, and how did you find your way into art or photography in general?
Um, I think my interest in art and especially photography comes from my childhood memories, because I grew up in a family when the adults were always holding its camera, ready to shoot. Uh, the family memories. But my father, with a background in cinema, and he was also a carpet designer, and I can see how my interest in arts come from, because I was always watching my father working, and it was very interesting for me to look at him carefully, choose colors and choose patterns. And, I think my obsession with details and long-term observation comes from that memories, that childhood memory. And also later, my brother was also into arts, and they were all taking photographs, not just the memories and snapshots, but they both had a deep connection with uh, artistic practices, and I think my interest in art drives from that. And I start practicing photography when I was at my teenage, and then it got more serious when I start studying photography at university. I received a BA in photography from Azad University of Arts in Tehran. And during that time, we were mostly introduced to lots of American photographers. Um, I don't know, I guess it was in fashion at that time, American photographers. And I was very inspired by them. Among them, I can name William Eggleston, Minor White, Harry Callahan, and Dean Michaels, which I find very inspiring at that time. And also now I can relate to them very much. And during my education, towards the end of my education, I developed an interest in video arts as well, and I started to experimenting with that medium. And it was then that I found Bill Vioda's work very inspiring. His poetic expression in his works resonates with me very much. It was in line with my interests with the poetry, both classical and modern Persian poetry. And when I look at my journey, I can see where the metaphorical aspect of my work is rooted. I deep down, I consider myself as a visual poet rather than just photographer. Yeah.
It's a fascinating journey. It's what's interesting is kind of your family was creative in their own way, and it seems like you came from a creative upbringing. What was it like with you said your dad designed Persian rugs, like patterns and stuff?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Did you get to ever? Did you ever get to play?
No, not really.
No, he was like, no, this is mine. You stick with that. No.
Yeah. Because it was a serious job,
I can
very
imagine.
delicate and serious. And it was a family business,
Oh, okay.
actually, because my father, my aunt, and her friend, there were three of them working, and of course, the other people that weave the carpet. And yeah, their journey was also very interesting because my father, I remember that after he finishes a design based on a specific location in Iran, and they travel to that places to find a perfect weaver who can work with that design, and they make one edition of each design. Actually, it was a kind of art, and hopefully I'm so happy that I have two of the rugs at my house. That there's no other edition of that.
It's one of a
So
kind. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a it's a family thing. Yeah, you'll never see this. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Was it like did was it I think we say big shoes to fill, It was like he's the creative force in the family. Was it like that growing up, that he was the creative force, the guy behind, the creation and these one of a kind pieces, and did that inspire you to kind of do your own thing and become your own creative force, because you are? So
thank you for saying
yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
that. Yeah, yeah, it did. Yes, it
Yeah,
did.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I think that's interesting. I think art is multifaceted. You're not just doing one thing. We like to say, "Oh, I'm a photographer," or "I'm this," but often I meet a lot of people and they're doing other things too. And like I see you also dabbling into filmmaking as well, which is a kind of a different spin on lens-based art. Do you do anything else other outside of lens-based creation, um,
Yeah.
or are you kind of locked
Yeah.
into those two right now?
No, I'm mostly engaged with photography. I'm not. Yeah, I'm recently working on a video. But
Awesome.
I mostly work with photography. But beside all of that, I really like to make things with my hand. So I really love to crochet. And I love to cook. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah. That the creative spark doesn't limit itself to one medium. I have noticed, and so I've noticed a lot of artists are really good at cooking, or some I've met that are just, they think they are, and I am just questioning whether it's. Um, well, you talked about your inspiration. You talked about a little bit of your education. I'm also curious, was there anybody in particular? A lot of times, what I've noticed, especially on our creative journeys, we have that one person that comes along and is very influential on us in our development. Do you have somebody like that that was influential, and how were they?
There are lots of people. I mean,
Yeah.
not uh not just artists. Um, there are lots of people that I inspired by them, but they're not specific one or two person that I can name. I'm always inspired by my mother because beside my father, because the way she looks at her work, and she was a encounter, and nothing related to art, but the way she lives for me is always inspiring, and not in my life, in my work as well. But in the field of art and photography, yeah, I named that. I'm really inspired by William Eggleston. It's one person that I constantly go back and check his work and look at his work, and yeah, also the Viola works, and I really yeah, it never stops inspiring me.
A lot of times in our projects, in our series, you said you have that extended focus and that extended attention towards something. What do you typically turn your attention to, and what are you focused on? I know a lot of it's very personal and personal work. So how did you find yourself there, and talk a little bit about your subject matter?
Yeah,
and then we'll jump into some and we'll check it out.
Yeah, as I said before, I'm mostly focused on my personal concerns, whether it's a social thing, whether it's, not a social thing with my relation to the society, whether it's my relation to myself or my family, or even the natural world. These are the things that make me think, or the things that make me want to discover more. The themes that I work are very broad because of that, and the visual language is also varied in each project because of that. Because when you start working on your projects intuitively, and then I reached to a point that I realized that I am more conscious about the direction that the project is going to be, and it is then that I decide, then I move more consciously towards the work. But at the start, everything is very intuitively. And so, yeah, I guess we can see it.
Of course. Yeah, let's jump in and we'll take a look.
Okay. I wanted to show this short video that we made with Nomic Book and the photo book publishing. It was made for the Kickstarter campaign for printing my photo book Half-Life. And I shot it during my treatment, and I will tell you more about the project after this video.
Of course. So we'll go ahead and play it now.
Yeah.
And we'll cut to it now.
My name is Shahrzad Darafsheh. I'm an Iranian photographer. I was born in Tehran. We live a little bit out from the city. It's about 30 kilometers away from town. My husband made a home. His workshop is downstairs and we live upstairs. So yeah, it's a little village I think we're living in outside Tehran. There are lots of good stuff here because it's like, for us, it's like a castle. Every bad energy and every other things goes away in this place. It's our home and we made it with our hands. We save little money and we work here and make our home. So yes, here it's like my heaven. When I lose my feminine parts of my body, I get a little bit obsessed about how do I look now, literally. I think that I was searching for my femininity. So I started to look at myself more often at the mirror, examine my body and how it's going to change and how I'm going to change, how I'm changing. Because I suddenly have a menopause at 36 and it's a little bit hard. my body changes in every aspect. So I started to look at myself through my camera, which helps me to understand that it's not important to lose an organ. It's all in your mind.
Wow. It's very touching. The music is on point. Talk to me about that story.
Half-Light is about my journey of confronting an illness, a health issue, and it started 2015 when I was diagnosed with endometriosis. Endometriosis is a chronic reproductive system disorder, and it is a very painful disorder. When I diagnosed with that, I started to after a while, of course, I start to taking some pictures for expressing my mental state, because when you have when you are in pain for most of the time, the mind is not working very well, and everything is gets more overwhelmed, and so I start to take pictures to see to discover, or to make my mind occupied with something else. Then, sadly, I was diagnosed with cancer, and because the doctors told me that this endometriosis will not get bad, and it's a benign situation. It was a benign cyst, but in my case, it got bad, and I eventually had to do a total hysterectomy surgery, which means the removal of both ovaries and the womb. So, and I didn't have a child, and at that time I wasn't thinking of having a child. But when the doctors told me that I have to remove all the things, and I will not be able to have a child, it was very sad situation. And at that time, I think that I have to do something for myself instead of throwing myself into the darkness of the cancer ward. When they tell someone that they have cancer, it comes with a lot of darkness, and it's hard to cope with the situation. And I couldn't find anything better than photography to help me to come out of that situation. When someone start to work with photography and start to work on subject matter, you have to make some distance from yourself and the subject to be able to see more clearly. And in my case, I had to make a distance with myself. So it was very helpful to see my situation, the family, my husband, and everything that we were facing from a broader perspective. And it helped me so much to cope with that. And it's interesting thing happened during that time that I was working, and I was at the early stages of my chemotherapy. That Jason Coxwell from Nomic Publishing contacted me and told me, "Do you want to have a photo book of this project, of these pictures?" And I was, "Oh yeah." Yeah, of course I want to have that. And, since then, I got more strength to that helped me to recover very fast after each session of chemotherapy, to come back to my house and start working, start taking more pictures, start editing, start looking at the thing more carefully and more deeply. And yeah, it was a very nice and um, interesting experience working with Jason and the editor Shane Rashfidio, and they helped me a lot at that time. And it was, it was a thing that changed everything, changed every aspect of that situation. My mental and physical health was improved because of that. And I'm so happy to have a book of this project, because I can see it as a baby, at my child, the child that I won't be able to have. But yeah, I have that feeling for this project in this book especially. And if you like, we can see some of the pictures.
Yeah, you just said something that was pretty powerful. It's I see it as my baby, the baby that I should have had.
Yeah.
That was really, really powerful. The last thing I was going to say is ask before we jump in is how did you get in contact with these people? Did you submit your work and you were like, hey, how did they find out about you, and how did that all work?
It's a magic of Instagram.
The magic of Instagram. Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Most people say, but go on, keep going.
Yeah, because me and Jason were following each other on Instagram, I don't know, for a year or so. And yeah, he just contacted me and he asked me, he wanted to see some more works. And I was at that time at a very difficult situation. I was at checking myself. I was at the stage that I didn't know I had cancer or not. I had to do a surgery or not. And it delayed, and I delayed to send him the pictures, sending my portfolio to see whatever we can do with them. And I think 6 months passed that time. And then Jason again contacted me and said that I want to see more pictures. And I told him about my situation. And he said, okay, can we talk over the video? And I said, yes. And everything start from that. I don't know. It's magical.
Wow. It's a wonderful story. So you actually use a couple of different mediums, and I was actually you're kind of expressing yourself in different ways. I saw in the images. So let's share and kind of talk to me about some of your choices. And I'm going to share, which I don't typically do on this show. So I apologize to everyone out there for my clumsiness as we go through this, but we will take a look, and I'll have you kind of guide me through. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. All right. We're now looking at an image of it looks like a window, and
yeah. I made this. I put this picture at first because I wish to talk about the situation that I was in, which I put lots of it in this picture. For me, when I talk about the metaphorical aspect of my work, I can now talk more about that. What we can see, it's a dying tulip, and tulip has a lot of meaning in Persian culture. It has a meaning of the martyrs, and it is also connected with love, and lots of classical poetry use that metaphor in their poems. And for me, it is a very important element, and because tulips comes with the spring, but what we can see it's dying. But what we know, if you care and if you keep the roots of the tulip with care and love, it will grow the next year.
Mm.
And this is for me the sign that I may be a little bit out of shape or out of control. Mentally, but with all the love that I am receiving from my family, my husband, and my friends, I can eventually grow next year. And so this picture has a two-sided view of my situation. One side is that I see myself very close to death, and the other meaning is that I am hopeful to thrive again, to bloom again. And it all combined with a twisted curtain behind the flower. I try to combine all these meanings and all these feelings in this picture. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's a powerful visual device, and so we're gonna kind of go through this. I'm gonna let you talk as you wish, and just tell me to go next. And I think you're taking me on a journey, so I'm not going to jump in too much. So, of course, I feel like I'm watching visual poetry.
That's
Yeah. And as you kind of, I interpret it because you're using symbology, you're using image, you're using visual cues that are speaking to certain things, and I have my own interpretation and I can feel them, but to hear your story behind them is actually quite powerful. So I'm gonna kind of let you take me through, and then I'm gonna ask you some questions after. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
For me, it's a symbol of the loneliness that I was experiencing. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, it is, as we all know, it is very overwhelming and sad, and no one can experience the thing that the person that has been diagnosed with cancer is, and it's a total loneliness when you cannot talk about your thoughts, your feelings, the fears, and everything that's suddenly is coming to you. So I found photography a very suitable tool for me to express these feelings, and this picture is for me, it's a sign of that loneliness and that experience. This is also my body with the scars of the two major surgeries that I had, and I wasn't able to see closely my body, how my body is changing on the mirror. So I used the camera to see myself, to look at myself. Now I see the camera at that point as an extension of my eye. So I needed to have a picture that I can examine my body better. And yeah, here is also my me and my husband's shadow on a wall on the rooftop of my parents. It's where we had our dates, because back then, when I was going through the chemotherapy, my immune system was very weak, and the doctors won't allow me to be in a public, be in a party, or in gatherings any sort. So it was our, you know, our way of having fun at those times. We were going to upstairs to have also sunbathing a little bit and to spend time together. And yeah.
What does this shadow mean to you? Why use a shadow?
No, because I wasn't able to see things very clearly and as they were. And I, you can see it a little bit sky at the left of the picture and a little bit hole. But we are, in front of us is a huge building and a huge wall. But also we also have, we see windows. These contradictory feelings of mine when the hope and fears we're always together. And yeah, I think I wanted to put all of that in this audio work in general, but you can see it in this picture also. And yeah, I like this picture very much. This is titled "Another Happy Day." It is a dancing piece of cloth hanging to be dry, and it is somehow, I can see myself in it, hanging, and not, I wasn't able to feel when I'm standing. You can see it in other pictures as well. I wasn't feeling that I'm stable, but also happy.
Yeah. I think when I'd heard you talk about this image in the past, you said that they were dancing in the wind, like dancing. It's such a joyous thing. I do have a quick question for you. Is that some photographers struggle naming their images and giving them titles and stuff like that. Does that come easily to you?
Not really.
No? Okay.
But in this project, I was it was easy for me to title my pictures because they all have some sort of meanings for me.
Of course.
Yeah, and this is my husband's hand searching or trying to catch light. And I use hands a lot in this project, and I was in need of them, I guess. The symbol of the hand reaching to you. And it's okay.
And light obviously is a significant symbol for you. It's in the title, and you're playing with it a lot in these images. What does that mean to you? How are you using it here? What's it symbolize to you?
You mean in this picture or in general?
Just in general. You're using light as half light. You're using light in a way here. You're using shadow. It obviously has some kind of meaning to you, and I'm kind of curious what that might be for you.
Yeah. As I said, I was in a state, contradictory state. Half light come from that state also.
Yeah.
The half light in Persian means twilight. The meaning of twilight in Farsi we can be better interpret in with half light. And it was I am hopeful, but I'm afraid. I want to live, but I may die very soon. I'm facing death, but I'm living. I have a lot of fear, but I also have a lot of love around me, from family, friends, and uh, and these all. I was in a state that I couldn't um, um, I couldn't act or say. Um, I don't have a rigid feeling. I was constantly in a state of moving between emotions and thoughts and fears. And actually, the book is also like that. That the book has a sequencing of starting at one end, starting from the darkness and going through and end with a light. And the book has been sequenced and designed the way that the reader can both read it back and forth. You can read it from left to right or right to left. And with both, you have a different experience and ending. If you start with the dark side, you will end in light. And if you start with lightness, you will end in darkness. And for me, it was some kind of my point of view in general, when everything is constantly becoming to something else. Lightness will become darkness, and darkness will become lightness. Like life and death in general. And
yeah, I think you have an interesting perspective on that, and I was, I almost feel foolish in the fact that I was looking at light with only one definition, and you're looking at it on multiple dimensions, multiple levels. It could be a symbol for life. It can be a symbol for cycle. It can be a symbol for love. It can be so many different things. And wow, it's a really interesting thing to think about for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Wow, that was good. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. We're gonna continue through the images as you wish.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and this is so the from the very beginning of this project, and it was back then when I was diagnosed with endometriosis, because it is a condition that the menstrual blood don't come out completely out of the body, and it stays there, and it gets thickened and it gets bigger each month. And this is a cloth when my friends were having grape vinegar. They were making grape vinegar. So when I saw this, I thought that this is how my body might look like inside. And it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's you're finding your experience through frames, and it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, you can move on. These are
happy. It's our happiness. It's birds, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And you're just capturing more of these intimate moments
of hands, and you can see the darkness, the light.
Yeah, the same metaphor at play. And it's like your husband seems like a big influence on you at this time. Are you willing to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Again, we get very more intimate with each other after that. And, it's hard when I had this kind of, I had cancer, and I was thinking about I might be leaving this earth. And, and my observation of my husband was also very deep, because I could see his worrying, his fear. And we were I don't like to use acting, but we were just not showing each other really how we felt, because that way we thought that we can keep each other's mood up and don't keep each other down. And it was very interesting and also sad experience.
Yeah. Very important to you. He's showing up a lot in your images. And talk to me about this one.
This one is a little bush separated from its root, and it's in a place that it shouldn't be. And I titled it Half Light, and not just because the separating and the darkness and the lightness inside the picture, also because of the same thing, that it's not attached to its roots. But the interesting thing about these kind of plants, these are based in dry places, dry climates, I mean. And the interesting thing is that if the wind comes and they roll to a place where there will be water and there will be growth there, it may look dead to you, but it's not. And it's the magic and the interesting part of the dry climate plants that I really enjoy.
You gave it the title of the whole series. This is it's like the title image, and so that metaphor kind of makes a lot of sense now. I love the contrast in this one. I love the two different tones there. It almost has now that you talk about the metaphors that you're using in your imagery, you can see the metaphors at play here, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think this is our final image that you want to share today.
Yeah, this is our final image. And it's also, you cannot guess the scale. And I really play with that in this project.
That series ended in 2018, and so you look great. So I'm assuming that you've recovered and everything. And what's it like looking back at that series and talking about that series?
It makes me emotional every time I talk about it. Every time I look at those pictures, it makes me very emotional. But it's good, because I learned a lot of things during that time and during working on this body of work. And, we people need a reminder every now and then. Yeah. Because, no matter how hard it was, no matter how deep my understanding was, but with daily life, I will forget about them. And it's good for me to remind myself what I was going through and how the things changed for me. The meaning of life changed for me. And yeah, it's not a joke, but yeah, I have to remember that.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that leave their past behind them, and they just never look back, and I can totally relate to that. And this could be one of those moments for you for sure. But you turned it into an art project, and you made a book with it. And I can only imagine that it has some kind of effect on you, having to reflect on it all the time. But I think there's something really healthy about that. I think there's something that is really important, and you pointed to it. You find a gratitude almost, the lessons that are buried in those moments. So this leads me to the next project, which is Entropy. And do you feel like having moved from that project into this one, you're kind of taking something from that one and moving into this one? Talk to me about this new body of work that we're about to look at.
Yeah, I put this Entropy for today's presentation because it has a important role in what I have been through Half-Life and all the experiences I had with cancer. And I made that during the time I was working with Half-Life. And the important thing about this project is that I was also, besides myself and my health, the whole situation was something that I was really concerned about, the issues of time and what time is. And I was obsessed about that. So I started to teach myself for 1 year of physics, and I studied various theories in physics, from Einstein theory of relativity to quantum physics, in order to find a proper meaning of time. And I wanted to. I really was desperate to find an answer, and I chose a stone as a symbol of time because the stone has been here on Earth from the early beginning, and they have been witness of lots of things. And if you show a geologist a tiny piece of stone, he or she can talk to you about history, can talk to you about time, and it was really meaningful for me. So I chose stone as a symbol of time, and I started to researching and teaching myself about physics and all these theories. But eventually, it also changed how I was seeing the world in my life as well. And the thing that it gave me helped me to cope with the situation that I have with my health and with all the things that I had till 2018. So I just quickly wanted to show you some pictures of that journey.
Okay. So this is Entropy, and you started this directly after Half-Life.
Yeah, because of the impact it has on my point of view, and it helped me a lot to cope with this situation. You cannot see it in the pictures, but it's for talking about my journey, how my projects are very personal and how they impacted me and myself. I wanted to show this some pictures of this project. It's so important for me.
So you're doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was working also both outside, in landscapes, and some studio shots that I made, and I used different techniques, and I was really curious about the rotations and everything that connects us with the concept of time.
Well, there's a contrast between the studio shots where you kind of isolate your images, isolate the rocks, and then you take them into the studio. Why did you do that?
I had some sort of game with myself where I went to landscape, and I chose some stones at my way to be my guide for coming back to the base. And I just remembered some rocks, some little pieces. And then when I was at my way back, I collect them if I just go back to the right path. And I took him home, and then it is also a symbol of, the guidance. And I wanted to play with them. I wanted to just separate them from their environment and see them without their background at the studio because the thing that I was studying, all the physics and all the theories about them are very abstract, like the art itself. And the thing you accept from art, you can find in theory of physics, and it was very astonishing. And I wanted to reproduce that abstraction again in the studio.
It looks like I'm looking at one image here. It looks like, is this the same rock you shot? Is this a multiple exposure?
Yeah. Yes, it's it's a digital collage in Photoshop. I made it in Photoshop, but it's the same rock. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're putting it in a circle. Is there now I'm looking for a metaphor in everything you do. I'm like, it might be just fascination. I'm kind of curious about this one.
Yeah, I made some studies about rotation. This is one of them.
Gotcha.
Because I really I was curious about how this rock looks when in rotation. How can we see the other side of it? And I was really into the moon and the earth. I started the earth. I started working with rocks, but I hooked up in space eventually. And so,
yeah, it takes you there. It does. Yeah. Especially when you start to study the materiality of the planet, the rocks, the formations. You start getting really deep. This one is interesting. It's got a plant. I don't have another word for this. Like an imprint, or I'm just gonna call it a tattoo, a fossil. There you go. Yeah. I think it's just an interesting all in itself, and then we can kind of continue to move on here. But I'm kind of curious about you kind of talked about the inspiration and why you kind of came here, and you started is this a body that's still in process, body of work that's still in process, or do you feel like you were done with them?
I think I'm done with this. project, but yeah, I'm done with this concept because it gives me it gives me a good perspective about what I was looking at, and I'm not after it at all. No one, no. Yeah.
So, after kind of an experience that you had, especially with Half-Life, and I see with Entropy, this is a kind of another kind of study. It's it seems like you started to look back at the details. You started to see things with new eyes. Do you feel like that was what this project was kind of a when you go through an experience that you had before, do you feel like now in this one you were really kind of now studying the world differently? Like you were looking at things a little closer than you probably would have?
Yeah, this Entropy I worked during the time that I was working also on Half-Life. And Half-Life wasn't any at any serious stage. I was just taking pictures intuitively, as I always do. But working in this project with Entropy, it gives me a new perspective about how to see the world. When I was studying the quantum theories of physics, it gives me this aspect of life and the world that I can rely to, because I really am drawn to the science. And what I understand that was that nothing vanishes in this world. Everything stays, and everything can become everything else. When I was thinking about the little, the smallest particles of the universe that the scientists call it quanta, that we cannot see, and they are always here, even after decay. So when I was after all this realization, when I was facing the cancer and I was thinking about I may be vanished very quickly, I was afraid, but I was at peace somehow, because I was thinking that yes, some parts of me and some parts of the consciousness maybe remain in this world, and I was happy about that. It was kind of a heartwarming thing for me. That's that situation.
Yeah, it comes back to that theory that energy is just transferred; it's never lost. It's it's always there, and what a reflection, huh?
Yeah.
That is that's an epiphany, and I can now see kind of this study. They're beautiful pictures, beautiful images. I mean,
Thank you.
and I think they're shot really, really well. How does that transition into this body of work that you started in 2020? The distance is real.
Yeah, I think I was up to recovering from all the experiencing I had after 2018, and I wasn't working till 2020. I was making pictures, but it wasn't anything serious till the year after COVID, I guess. I was, oh no, it was during the COVID that I started to look at the places that I'm living more closely. I cannot say that these body of works are related so much, but you can see how I was telling you that I use different style of pictures or different visual languages in each body of work. What I mean is that I don't decide what to do at first. When I start, I don't plan things. I don't I don't write things. I how to do things. I how to make pictures, but I just go in it intuitively. And so I think it was when we locked down, and I was looking outside from the windows because we were not allowed to go out. We were here in Iran, we were allowed to go out, but we just didn't ourselves. We make that limitation for ourselves. And I saw things that was catching my eyes after 10 years of living in this place. I understand that before that lockdown, I wasn't used to go out either. I wasn't very engaged with this society because, it's this place is a small suburban industrial town. And near Tehran, it's only 30 kilometers to the city. And I was watching the scavengers from the windows of my house. I was watching, the life that was going around my house. So I became interested in working on that place, watching it more carefully, and to see how my relationship with this place is, and what am I in this place. At first, I was very engaged with the environment, with the natural environment, with all the debris, with all the water pollution, air pollution, and the other things that was overwhelming as well in this place. And when I started working on that, I understand that it's not just the environment and the natural environment that is important for me. It's also the people of this place. But I wasn't very comfortable to go out and engage with them directly. So I start watching them from the windows, and occasionally with a bird watching telescope. I think we can see the first picture of this series. Yeah. And it wasn't just the nature that I was watching with this telescope, it was also the people. And I somehow felt that I'm invading their privacy, but I try to take some pictures that the faces are not very recognizable, because the people that I photograph this way are mostly scavengers. And it was very hard for me to look at the people, the young men, searching for worthy wastes at these dirty trash cans, and we are all shouting the hygiene and washing your hands, lots of time washing everything. It was COVID, and we were all taking care of each other, taking care of ourselves. But it was very overwhelming watching them in that situation.
So what we're looking at in the image is a telescope, like the glass style, and you're kind of putting your camera at the lens where your eye would go.
Yes.
Okay, because
And this way, I had opportunity to manage the inside and outside together.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I could manage the people in my house. I could manage the landscape, the nature to my house, to my interior. And it was a thing that, during working that, I understand from my pictures that I feel distant from people. I feel passionate about them. I feel compassion about them. But why I feel the distance, why I cannot go out and ask them if I can take their pictures, why cannot interact with them directly? Yeah. Because I felt the distance and, I wasn't aware of that. I think that, okay, I'm living in this place. This place is mostly, the inhabitants are mostly migrants from other cities of Iran in search of work. So I can say all of them are working class people. And I'm suddenly living here and I'm privileged of having a house, having, a lot of things. But because of that, I was ignoring this distance and mentally and emotionally. Wow. But when I was working, I understand that, why I cannot reach to them. I think in the next picture you can see it better. This is this is my interior. And if you go to the next picture, here. It's the nature day, the 13th day of Farbardin, the first month of the year, which the people, families go outside by any nature that they found. And they have a picnic and stuff, they play, but I couldn't go. I eventually went among them, but the picture I took wasn't from that far. I was comfortable when I was away from them. And and then this is also the 3-year-long project. And this is also another picture from my window. You can see the children playing, and there's not so much to play with. I also have some writing about this project that I would like to read a few parts of it, if you think that.
Of course, please.
Yeah, because you can. Let me. Okay, I will start from there.
Okay.
It all started from the east window in late spring when the lockdown had begun. I wasn't used to looking out that window. It still feels like I'm outside when I stand there. The window faces the main street, some workshops with homes above, just like ours, and a bare dusty ground stretching between our house and the main street. Children play there a lot without much to play with, apart from some glass bottles to break, tires to roll, and scraps of plastics to burn. A skinny ash tree barely holds itself against the wall, sharing its shade with the scavengers resting. It all started here, watching them eating bread and drinking coke, with hands used to search for worldly wastes. Once they found a tiny mirror. For hours they were amused by it. Young men laying upon the ground. They passed the mirror around, each of them carefully looking at their faces. Watching, I hid behind the curtains. Looking through a telescope, I could see them closely, just like the mirror to their faces. And for this picture, I would like to read this. A noise scatters my thoughts. The walls and closed windows doesn't help much. It sounds like two metal objects rubbing against each other. A continuous high pitch, at times like women screaming. The lathe machine works 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. So does its operator. His wife and two small children live there with him by the side of the machine. Occasionally, I see them standing in the workshop's doorway, enjoying some sun on their skin. The girl is a younger one, about 3, always hiding behind her mother, looking at me with eyes full of wonder, holding a cotton doll almost the same size as herself. We only exchange a few words, casual greetings for the sake of politeness as a neighbor. Our distance is as real as the noise, which is the background to our lives. Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, it's it's to hear that context, your reflections, these images are a fascinating look into that world, and to hear you kind of thinking about it. Did you have a film of this too that you wanted to share?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have a film about it.
Okay.
Last year, the woman pathway movement, I find out the root of this distance that I felt, and it was all about gender inequality. I was afraid to go out to this society that is mostly males outside, and I wasn't feel comfortable because of that. And I am in search of my identity, I guess. And because of that, this project is more straightforward than my other projects. In this body of work, I'm searching for my own identity. I'm lost here, and I'm looking at inside of my house that is a lot different from the outside, and I'm constantly working on what am I in this place? Am I a stranger? Am I an insider? Am I an outsider? What the people see me, how they see me. And I guess I finished and I stopped taking pictures for this, but my questions didn't stop. I still have a lot of questions about that, and I think it's all refers back to the system, because I was at first worrying about the environment and why people don't care, why there are lots of pollution here. But then I realized that how can I expect people that have been neglected by the system to care about the living, environment, the natural environment? Because I see the source in the system and this corrupted system that we are living.
It's a profound realization. It's not just there, it's the same kind of thing, and I think that perspective is fascinating. And when you look at some people would call them, I don't have a good word for this, but people that sit on the edge of society, that they're homeless or struggling to find work or doing something like that. There's often a judgmental eye, and it's like they live amongst, in these tough environments, and I think what you just said there was a fascinating connection, And it is something to think about for sure. It's amazing. And you said you stopped this project?
Yeah, I stopped taking pictures, but I'm working on the maquette, the physical maquette. I wanted to make a book out of this project, and I'm working on that.
Yeah. Wow. I think today you've taken me on a wonderful journey, and I really, really appreciate it. I typically finish this show with just one little bit of advice, and like there's a lot of people that watch this show that are image makers, and they are people that are involved in making art and making work. And I'm curious if you have any advice for someone that is just kind of starting making work and building, becoming artists themselves. Is there any insights that you can give us?
Just be yourself. Just stay true to yourself. And don't be afraid of failures, because I was afraid of failures, and I keep myself from experiencing a lot of things. But you just learn from your mistakes. It's a good way to learn. And so don't stop experimenting. Don't afraid of failure.
I think that's awesome. And that's wonderful. I just want to say thank you for your time today. Really.
Thank you, Frederick, for having me. It was a very nice and rich conversation with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And to everyone that's made it this far, thank you so much for joining us today on the Urbanaut. And if you like content like this, please consider liking, sharing, and commenting down below. I'm sure we'll both enjoy the comments from this show. And as always, if you want to support our content, join consider becoming a member of our Patreon page on patreon.com. And as always, we'll see you next time.